Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and today we're talking to someone who's actually in the same time zone with me for once. Denise Marsa, welcome to the show. So we were kind of just talking about industry, how the music industry has changed, and maybe start heading back to the way it was, or some version of the way it was. And I was kind of like, well, let's get this conversation on the recording before we kind of get too involved. And you were saying that you're starting to see a push to sign younger bands more to like record labels, like back in the days. That kind of, I think that's where we left off.
Yeah. Hey, hi all. Thanks for having me, Andy. Well, my story was sort of, so I'm in the West Village, and I'm around the corner from Electric Lady Studios, which is a really world famous rock and roll studio. And even people these days have been recording there. But the Janis Joplins, the Jimi Hendrix, the Jim Morrisons, Lady Gaga recorded there. I mean, it's a fabulous studio. And I was recently, I guess a month or two ago, right before the holidays, some people that were living downstairs had some friends staying there, an engineer and assistant engineer, that were working on this new band. They were really young, apparently. I don't know the age, but I wish I remembered the name. But Atlantic Records had sent them all to New York to record. And they weren't from New York. And so I'm thinking, like, what? So they're putting money into a band like they used to, like to record a record before they even break. But maybe because of the COVID, who knows, things have changed. Because bands can't really tour, and they can't really, play live like they did, a lot of them. And so maybe now labels are kind of investing from the very beginning in new talent, which I think is important. The whole self-do-it-yourself thing is so exhausting, and also takes a lot of money. And I think the formula used to work, and then it shifted, and maybe it's going back a little bit too. You don't know.
Do you think there's is it just a different way of doing something, or do you think there's a real benefit to getting a band in a studio like that with the history, and to kind of like really get set into that kind of creative mindset, opposed to being like, I hung some foam in my bedroom and we're all recording this album in my bedroom on my laptop kind of thing?
I think I've had the experience, so I know firsthand it's amazing to have musicians all in the same room, to have a producer or an engineer, or be producing yourself, and to have good equipment and not to have to worry about every detail yourself, to get in there and just do the creative. Mm-hmm. Is a wonderful experience. It also puts you at a professional level. It's like, I would never take my carburetor from my car. I would never do that myself. And so, and I think people, I certainly record on my own. I've done my own recordings in my own studio, and I still do. And it's cool, and it's great to know all that. And that's how I learned how to produce and engineer. But there's just something about, especially when you're getting started, it just gives you this, it's like you're in Wonderland. And right. Why not start off in Wonderland? Why not give young people a chance to really feel the tingly part about the music business? Because there's a lot of things that are not so tingly. So give them some tingle in the beginning, sort of.
I mean, people want to be like, when they're thinking about it, they want to be the rock star, and that's not from the home studio. That's from, the studios and the big venues.
Yeah, it's confidence too. It gives them confidence. When you think about all the millions of projects out there, all the bands and singer-songwriters and all different genres around the world, give a project a great start. I watched the Beatles documentary, Get Back, and I've watched some other music documentaries, and there's an essence that goes with starting a career. And I think it's like kids going to, elementary school. They don't start off in college,
Right.
So I like the idea of nurturing new talent. I think it's important.
It's funny you brought up the Beatles documentary. I started to watch that, and I think I got through the first episode, or almost through the first episode, and it weirdly made me feel uncomfortable. Like I felt like I was eavesdropping in on a creative process, and maybe it's just the way that I work. I don't necessarily want people watching me while I work creatively. Like, did you kind of get any of that from the documentary, and how do you feel about kind of opening up your method and letting people in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's first of all, I mean, I don't know how many times they did it, and I think they tried it. I think they trusted the people around them at the time. It seemed to me that John was really shy, and Paul was the one who was verbalizing more and really kind of more in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, as far as the band itself. The other things, the other, insights were cool, and it was nice to see the four of them getting along. And Yoko was in the room as well, which was interesting. I think it was interesting. I'm glad that they did it because it archived a band that has, stood the test of time. I mean, how many bands, I think bands more so now, the classic bands are standing the test of time. Mm-hmm. But for that era, they seem to be the one that stands out the most. And so I think it's cool. I mean, I don't think it would be something they'd want to do all the time. It's like I never understood the Big Brother MTV stuff, like people watching you all the time. That's a different story. But for one moment to glimpse into the behind the scenes and to see the idea of recording and get to see some of the people that were involved, I think it was an interesting look at the Beatles and history and the music business at the time. Again, I wouldn't want to do it a lot, once in a blue moon. Yeah, and I don't mind sharing my insights because for me, at this stage of my career, I like to help and share, and if people need some, help, I was mentoring some new young artists over the years. I'm not doing that anymore, but I spent some time, producing, managing, mentoring, and it was a great addition to my career, helping others. So if it helps others to a certain extent, it's cool. As long as, what I want someone in at the very beginning of a new song, I don't think so. But they were also writing and recording. So you got to see how they, at that time, they were kind of like throwing stuff together. But I know what you mean. It was like you were watching them from the window.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And especially when they started kind of talking about, there was one part where they're kind of talking about feeling like they had done what they could do. And, you could see kind of the beginning of the end. And it was just like, it just felt so personal and almost like, oh, I mean, I know they know the camera's there, but I just felt like, I don't know if I should be seeing this. So. Yeah,
it's like it's an interesting idea for a book or something if it hasn't been done. The psychology of a band. I mean, truly, like how come the Stones stayed together so long? There is a psychology of a band, in my opinion, and that's where a record label could come in and really help set up a band in a good way, especially if they have a nurturing A&R team, a nurturing, law firm or attorney or manager. The nurturing is what's really key when projects are new.
And I'm sure like kind of managing egos and what people are expecting to get out of the band. Because I mean, I think that's such a rock and roll trope is when, you have a successful band that kind of parts ways because they just, they always label it creative differences or whatever. But I mean, is there a trick to keeping a band together?
Is there a trick?
Yeah.
I'll sell it to you for $1,000, Andy. I think clear communication, and I think egos being, an ego is really important. You have to have an ego because you have to be able to stand the test of, people. You're putting yourself out there. You're on a platter, and so you have to be able to believe in what you're doing, and then you maybe have to have a mission statement as a band, and you have to know why you're going into this. Why are you starting the project? Do you love music? Do you want to become rich and famous? Which is fine. If you want to just become rich and famous, then that's the reason for starting a band. You want to get out of the streets. You want to get out of having little and you want more. A lot of musicians can see that as a way to kind of raise their lifestyle, just like basketball players, sports players, football players, anyone in the world. You can look at something and say, oh, I'm going to try to give myself a better life if I do this, this, and this. But I think the trick, again, it's having the right people around the band, in my opinion, kind of, and everyone communicating openly, honestly, and figuring out at each stage, because what everybody, even in relationships, all kinds of relationships, and marriages and things and work, people change. There's growth. but you want growth. You don't want to stay stagnant. And so if everyone's talking about the growth and everyone's talking about the changes and everyone's kind of looking, okay, so we did this, what do you think about doing it that way? It's, I think communication is key for many things. And also the tone of the way that you say something, the way that you set something up, that's why psychologists are really smart. They sit there, I just recently watched a film about this. And there's a way to say something to keep someone open and flexible, and there's a way to say something that's going to close the door. So I think clear communication and nurturing people around you, there is a trick. And you don't have to send any money. I'm cool with that.
I think that's really good advice. And you actually made me think of something that happened recently. So at the beginning of COVID, I got laid off from my full-time job, and now I just do Inebri-art. And
cool.
We've been
everything happens for a reason, right?
Right. And I don't want to be that guy to be like, hey, COVID turned out to be a good thing, but so far so good. And so I have a business partner, and we were coming home from an event, and we were trying to figure out, it was an unusual event, so there was an additional cost, and I was trying to figure out, like, did we charge the right for tickets? And so I'm running math through my head kind of out loud, and he's trying to like figure out some other he's basically trying to figure out the same thing but in a slightly different way. And it became this huge argument. So that we're driving the car, and I'm yelling at him. I'm like, damn it, give me the number I'm asking for, not the number that you want to talk about. And like, I felt it getting to that point where it's so heated. And so then I'm like, you know what else? He's like, what? I'm like, good job tonight. Cause I felt I had to like tone it down because I was just getting so angry.
You brought in a positive. That's a good thing.
But I think it's just that, it's that it is a relationship, and you spend so much time with these people that you have to, even sometimes blow off that steam and kind of not let it, don't take it personal. I was mad at him, but I don't dislike him.
Well, you weren't getting what you wanted. And so, but also you said you were driving.
Yeah.
Were you in a car? Because that's not the best time. So you're moving, you've got the energy, you've got the inertia around you.
Yeah.
It's pushing you forward. So that's going to be something that's going to kind of escalate your feelings and your energy. My suggestion, next time you talk to your partner, sit down over a glass of beer or wine, whatever you like, scotch, Dewar's.
You're probably right, but we were on the way back from an event. It was like an hour ride. We needed something to talk about.
And that's something that I got it. I've been reading a book, and some of the most important conversations are had at the wrong time. Both people have to be in the right place to have a conversation where it stays calm. And you might be aching. Oh my gosh, I can tell you so many times I was aching to say something, and I did, and I could have waited, and it would have had a different result. And so when you're out there and you're, and especially if you're a musician, we have no patience most of the time, except I have patience for long term. Obviously, I've been doing this a long time, and so it's because I love it. But anyway, and so figure out a better time to talk about things that are important, or that you might have differences even before you start. And so that's my advice. And certainly not being in a car, try to shift it. If you're kind of bored, you're talking for an hour, like, I don't know, play a word game or talk about Plymouth Rock, for instance.
We've already done that. That's the other show.
Yeah. Talking about nurturing, you got to nurture yourself as well. You got to nurture your mind, your thoughts, and how to put things in place so that they work for you. Now, I'm not sure what happened after you got so escalated, but it's not good for your blood pressure. It's not good for anything. No. It's not, it can, and that's what has ruined relationships, that getting to that point. So if you monitor your own energy like that, and if you monitor your thoughts and you kind of think, just, okay, well, this might not be the best time, especially right after something. But I like how you brought it back. So you put you had the fish line was out, and then you brought it in a bit, and then you kind of added to the bait. And then when you said to that your partner, great event, you brought it back to the positive, and that kind of it reminded you of what you're doing it for. And
right. Yeah. I was really just trying to diffuse it, and now it's kind of like a running joke, and
it's fun.
Luckily, we're good enough friends that we can kind of get mad at each other, and it's
better that partner than a new partner that might say this guy's crazy. But also, I recently watched Spinal Tap it was on some station. I think it might have been 13 or TCM, I forget. But there's something that I saw that they did as a band when they were getting heated,
Mm-hmm.
and they were taught. It was ridiculous conversation. It was hysterical. I mean, I'm really glad I watched it again. There'd be silence, and like they're getting kind of starting a little heated, and then there'd be silence, and then one would go, "I love you, man." That's kind of what you did.
Yeah. It was kind of important to me at that point to be like, I'm frustrated, but I'm not really mad.
Yeah, good. And you clarified it, and that's clear communication.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I feel like you're a therapist. I feel like I'm on BetterHelp or something. But
isn't music a form of therapy for people? I always feel that music, of all the things in the world, let's say someone's upset, right? And then and they're upset or angry, and then all of a sudden there's a song that comes on that just brings something to them that, I don't know, maybe it's a Nirvana song, maybe it's, who knows, Jennifer Lopez song, whatever it is, it comes in, and then boom, your whole mood shifted. There are not a lot of things, there are some things that can change change that space, but I think music is a bit of therapy for the world. I do, especially, but I am not a doctor.
There's always those bands that I go to when I'm in a really bad mood and like pop on and be like, you can't, like Jamiroquai jumps to mind. I'm like, you can't be in a bad mood and listen to Jamiroquai. Like, you got to start tapping your foot and kind of singing out loud. And it's such a great way to kind of, if you're having a bad day, just kind of change it up.
Exactly. So tell me about your relationship with your mother, Anne. I just had to. Sorry.
So let's get back to a little bit about you and your music. So, because we get a lot of listeners from all over, and
cool.
I find that especially nowadays, it's people can be touring musicians, famous of all, and no one know who they are. And especially with music, it's hard for I was throw back to like, oh, back in my day, we went into the record store and there was country, rap, rock, and pop, but like those guidelines don't even fit anymore. So like, how would you define your music? And I hate that question, so I kind of always ask, like, who would you tour with that people would know that would make sense?
Okay, that's cool. I think,
or who have you toured with?
Right. I think it's interesting. I think different times, different things, but I also feel that of all, my music has always been, and I think that's why it was so difficult when I first got started in the music business, wanting to produce myself, writing my own music. They couldn't categorize. They'd say, well, how can you do this kind of song and do that kind of song? You have to either do that kind of song or do that kind of song. You've got to pigeonhole yourself, basically. Everybody was always trying to pigeonhole me because I had a voice that could do that and that and that and that. And I remember being in an A&R meeting years ago, and he said, "Oh, you sound so good on that. That's so amazing." And then I played him kind of a rock and roll tune. I played him like a more mid-tempo, slow, kind of mellow track. Mm-hmm. And then I played that. He goes, "Wow, you sound really good on that too. But you got to decide. You have to decide." Like, he got really stressed about it. And I think those are the things for me. And I believe what I'm seeing is that those types of narrow-minded creative thinking in the music business has shifted. Yeah. When I first started, this was said to me pretty much verbatim. They only sign one solo female artist every 2 or 3 years. They just don't sell. And they can't. It takes longer to market a female. They want to make their money quicker, so they do the bands or the solo artists, and so. That was my window apparently back then. And I was like, what, are you kidding me? And I was always someone trying to shake things up. And so my definition of myself, because I know that's the question, I'm an eclectic songwriter, and I hear things and I'm moved sometimes by an instrumental, I hear a part and then I start it, I play keyboard. So I come up with all these different sounds on various keyboards through the years I've played. And I think I would, eclectic, but certainly I would consider myself, pop, with a sense, I sometimes put in classical, I put in rock, kind of a rock I can rock out of. But my new song, it's called Float. I'm happy to share. It's brand new. Been working on it the last 4 days. It's a little bit heavier. My last single, All This Time Alone, was a little bit heavier as well. But I started off as a rocker. I mean, that was really my background. Back when, they were, comparing me like to Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin. So, and then, my style has changed and shifted. So, and I think it's, for me, about the melody, about the lyrics, about the intent, about the way I put the song together. Because I also, when I'm writing a song, I hear the production as I write. It's sort of like, that's how it's always been for me.
Yeah.
And so, I guess eclectic, I don't think, mixing various genres. One person, when I did my album Live Forever, I think they called me Americana, and I'm like, whoa. One track was Live Forever, was kind of Americana. I like mixing it up. I always have. I've never been someone who likes to be put in a box. In fact, I have a song called Box on my second album, Live Forever. Box, which, it's pretty interesting. I don't know how you describe it. And this new song, I don't know how you describe it. I tend to mix things together. So
yeah.
I'm a doctor. I'm a baker.
Candlestick maker?
Yeah, sure. Why not? As long as it's hot.
But I really like that. That kind of eclectic. One of my favorite bands is Ween. I think they do great music, but no song is similar to the song before it. Right. And it keeps it interesting and fun. And there is something to be said for if you put on a Metallica album, what it's going to sound like and sing along to it. But
or a Jackson Browne album. I saw a movie. They had a couple of his tracks in there. It's like you could tell it was Jackson Browne by the first two chords.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes it's nice to go on a little kind of exploratory trip and see where what the band's going to do. If you were an artist and you painted the same painting all the time, you'd lose fans.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. You had said who I would tour with. I think I would love to tour with someone like a Sting, because I think he's fairly eclectic. I love the band Keane. I don't think it would be necessarily my audience, but you never know. Elvis Costello was someone I've always loved. I love his album, Imperial Bedroom. So, and I don't know that touring, I don't know what that's going to look like anymore, artists, but, I think everyone has to sort of find their way through this, and what's going to work for them to keep the creative energy going, to staying relevant.
It is an experience to go to a club and see a band perform. Now I went last Friday to the Paradise in Boston, and you had to have documentation of a COVID test within 72 hours or something like that, or a full vaccination card. And so you're going in and they're checking your ID to make sure you're old enough to be there. Then they're checking your ID against your COVID card. There was one guy who was standing outside taking a COVID test on the sidewalk.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then they put the armband on you, and then they, have the wand, so they make sure you don't have any weapons on you or whatever. And I'm like, this is a really weird. It was so many steps to just kind of like getting everybody into the club. It was.
And did everybody have to wear masks watching?
Yep. Yeah.
So that's another thing. I mean, it's how weird is it? When you're excited about a band. Yeah. You can't really, you can't sing along. So that's trippy, Yeah. I went to the movies. I went to see Spider-Man. My brother, he's a real fan of those Marvel movies. Similar, you had to show everything. You had to show your ID, and we sat. They only let a certain amount of people in. They would only sell a certain amount of tickets, because he lives actually in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we sat like in the back, but way away from other people. And it's definitely a trippy experience. I haven't seen live. I mean, I was producing some live music for a series, 20 and 21. But it was more classical and, some contemporary stuff. but that was me. I was kind of working it, and then I'd leave the room. I'd set it all up, and then we would go live streaming and stuff. But I don't think I've sat at a performance, especially at a club, in a long time. It's tripping, you know.
We did some live streaming of some musician friends of us last winter. Yeah, it was last winter when they couldn't perform in clubs, and it's one of those. It's not great, but it's what we had, you know. It sometimes you got to make do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. You when something matters to you, when you just know you have to do it, and it's like breathing, then you have to go along with whatever, you know, whatever rules and regulations at the moment. And it just seems like the whole pandemic is pretty much out of control. Like there's absolutely no controlling it. 1 minute it's this, and then the next minute it's that, and it's this, and then it's that, you know. And there's so many things you hear about it. And you don't really know. It's like, I think it's because they don't really know what's going on. You know, it's like, okay, we're all in the same place. We all really don't know what's going on. When I say all, I mean around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, this is certainly, since I've been alive, a global pandemic. And it's, you know, and we're all sort of, and it puts everybody in the same boat. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's next. And there's sort of an uncertainty. And then what does uncertainty bring? Does it bring more creative? Does it bring more peace? Does it bring less peace? And I think it brings different things. I think I tend to think if you were a positive person before the pandemic, you're going to be more positive. If you were a negative person before the pandemic, you're going to be more negative. I think it's extremed us. Is that a word? Extremed? Yeah.
It's really interesting how it affected, you know, people's creative process. I've been so lucky that I've been able to continue podcasting using the internet. And I've gotten to talk to so many people globally. So I get to talk to and be like, hey, how's it going over there? And, you know, what's the real story? What's it like? But the other thing that I'm really seeing is that it seems like there's two type of people. There's like myself, especially early days when like everyone was pretty much locked down at home, and I had zero creative juices, like nothing. I was depressed. I didn't want to do anything. And then there were people who went the polar opposite, where they're like, I'm home all this time. It's great. I get to work on my music or my art or whatever. And it didn't seem like there was anyone really in the middle. I'm sure there is, but I mean, everyone I talked to seemed to fall into one of those two camps.
How did you get out of your depression, Andy? Back to the doctor.
So
no, but seriously,
I met my mom when
you know, to help.
Well, this is the thing with depression. I don't know if you ever really kind of get out of it, or you just learn to, you know, deal with it and develop methods to deal with it. Creative wise, I actually got to, a friend of mine had bought a house, and here in Massachusetts, it's illegal to sell a house with a diving board in the pool. So for like liability reasons, I'm sure I'm using illegally the wrong. Yeah. So
in the bathroom.
Whoever had owned the house before had detached the diving board and kind of like leaned it up against the pool house. So, you know, they're like, we don't really want the diving board. Would you paint it as an art piece that we can hang up in the pool area? And I said, yeah, but only if I can do it with my daughter.
Oh, cool.
And so working with her, because she's now, I mean, she's basically an adult. I mean, she's going to be 18 this year.
Okay.
And so it was really, really enjoyable and like got me going, because I wasn't.
So that was what it
was. Because I wasn't working with my daughter. I was working with an artist who happened to be my daughter. Like her input was great, and it was just overly a good experience. So that kind of like got me out of my creative slump.
Out of your funk.
Yeah. Do you
and then
get that way creatively? You know, it's the pandemic, you know, it's kind of there's peaks and valleys. So,
okay.
but
overall,
I mean, I've developed.
You're good.
I have a great network of friends, and, you know, I have people that I can confide in, and when you have good days, you reach out to those friends, and when you
Yeah,
have bad days, you reach out to them too, and you make sure you're reaching out to them. And it comes back to that communication. I feel like
that's that word.
the biggest kind of the biggest win for depression is your lack of involvement. And so I try to make sure my schedule's full of stuff, and I
So
try
you stay
to make,
involved, right?
yeah, because I mean, if you stay at home, that's the depression winning. So
Yeah, I mean, you were going to ask me about my creative process,
Mhm.
and I am very grateful. I'm a creative person, and because I also have a PR and marketing company, so whether I'm helping others and I'm doing PR and marketing for someone else, creating a press release, creating graphics, creating social media campaigns, album covers, whatever it is I'm doing, or producing other artists, I've been consistently creative my entire life. I don't know how I got so lucky, or just maybe I was dropped, I came out at the right moment, the right time, because that's probably all plays into it. But I also believe 100% that the most powerful tool we all have is our mind. And we can talk ourselves in and out of anything. And it's minds that created the computer. It's all, put us on Mars or the moon, whatever. And so I like to have I try to constantly be in a good state of mind. So I have things around me that keep me, that I like to look at, artwork, pictures. I decorate things the way I like them. I have my chimes in the morning now. I sometimes do with my intention. I do it more than sometimes, in the morning I go to my chimes, I put my intention out there. But I'm very aware that I'm very lucky, because I've spoken to other people, and I never really quite understood depression until I spoke to a few people that have had it.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart goes out to them, because when you wake up and you're excited about your day and you can't wait to get over to your new song, or you can't wait to get into that press release, you can't wait to talk to this person or that person, or you can't wait to look out your window, because it's just those simple things for me. If they don't have that, it's like, oh gosh, I feel, like I said, my heart goes out to them. So, and I think everybody, the one thing about what I'm learning about people, because people are certainly going through some depression with all this COVID, is that you can't force anybody anywhere. Everybody has to get to where they're going on their own, in their own time, in their own way. And sometimes people say that if you push people, they're not going to get there at all. So I've learned you just have to let people express themselves. You listen, you try to understand, you're compassionate, you're empathetic. And that's maybe also where I'm empathetic, so that I can appreciate my own state of mind and keep my state of mind as positive as possible. They used to call me Pollyanna when I lived in LA, because I always looked at everything with rose-colored glasses. Yeah. And I think in a way it's helped me to get through, and certainly in the music business this long, because it's how I see the world. And I think I see the world in a good way. And, I don't feel that I'm hurting anyone by seeing things the way I see things. And sometimes people actually appreciate my point of view. But I am a creative soul.
Yeah, I really like how you said that you can think your way in and out of things, and it's like that. To me, that's one of the most vital tools, is learning to ask yourself the right questions. Give
me an example.
So if something goes wrong, you do something that ends badly, and you say to yourself, what are you, an idiot? Or why did you do that? Your brain will answer you to fill that question, opposed to being like, okay,
your inner voice.
What did I learn? What am I not going to do next time? It's how you can phrase those questions can kind of,
right.
Yeah,
exactly. Or you could say, okay, what did I get from that? What did I learn from that? Or how could I do that differently next time? I have a song called Your Voice, and on my website, it says, your voice is the loudest. And what I do mean is, and people think, oh, what do you mean? Like you have to talk loud? No, it's like your voice inside your head. It's like, that's the key. It's what you hear. Because in the end, and I'm an example of it, with all the no's and the can'ts, and no, you can't, and don't do, and no. I just keep doing what I do, and I love what I do. And so And I don't think anyone should ever stop you from doing what you love doing. I mean, if you truly love, I mean, creatively, if you truly love doing it. And so the voice, when I say your voice is the loudest, it's the voice, how you speak to yourself and how you speak to yourself. And I think that's maybe where my luck came in. I always knew from a young girl that my value of myself was more important than anyone else's value of me. Mm-hmm. And I was just lucky enough to have that DNA, or to have that, you know, when I was born, some dust came down from somewhere and said, let's have this person have some, you know, good thoughts about themselves. I always knew that, you know, that, and that's why, funny enough, after all the years in the business, you know, and I went through a lot. I mean, you know, some of my stories are in my show, The Past, but there's so many more stories. But anyway, when I first finally, after having publishing deals and record deals, you know, with a record deal, you know, I said, I'm doing it myself. And so I started my own record company, and I put my own record out, and I produced it myself. And on the cover, I was really kind of somewhat, maybe mildly obsessed with finding a cover that was reflective. And it was near impossible to find. It was 1997 when we were putting a cover together. And finally, my guy working with me on the artwork said, I found, I think it's called Mylar or something like that, whatever it's called. I forget. But anyway, I found something, but it's stickers, but we can cut it up into the pudding and slip it in when we manufacture. And so the album cover is called Self. Yeah. Because, you know, you have to believe in yourself. So it just says Self. There's no picture of me in the front. And everyone said, how can you not put your picture on the front? Because when people picked it up, they saw themselves. Right. Yeah. That's cool. And that was my message. And that's how I got into marketing. People said, oh, who does your marketing? You know, like, so I started helping other people. And who does your PR and stuff? Because I created a different person for myself doing my own PR because I didn't have any money. And so that's how I learned. I just jumped in. But that was important for me, to people to say, look, my music it's not about me. It's about how you feel when you hear my music. So why don't you see yourself when you pick it up? And maybe you'll see something about yourself, or maybe you'll just enjoy it, or maybe it'll just make you feel a good way. You know, that's really what it is, entertainment in the end, music. But it's also, there are, you know, like in the 70s for sure, messages, you know, messaging. And that's where I heard, you know, a lot of influences in the late 70s where there were messages, and you know, feel something, whatever, you know, like some people might not like something or like something, but at least they're feeling something. Right. Yeah. I'd rather someone hate my artwork than not notice it. Right. You know, I don't know what I feel. Yeah. Really? Like, no, it's fine. I feel like I'm hungry. Yeah. Cool. So before we get to your music, because we're going to include a couple songs on this episode, where can people go to find your social medias, your downloadable music, your, you know, PR company? What? You know, yeah, cool. Any of that stuff. So let's go backwards. So PR company is Key Media Public Relations. That's pretty much it. It's a Key Media Group, keymediapublicrelations.com. My music is DeniseMarsamusic.com. At the moment, I think till January 18th, we're giving there's free downloads. So people can go to my website, and there's players, and there's little dots on the right. You can just download it. It gives you an option to download. Okay. So I just decided I want people to hear the music. I want to sort of like share it, but also maybe just see maybe some of the songs can make people feel good. So especially during these times, you know, just it's a gift. So basically, you can go there and download it. Social media, I think it's just Denise Marsa Music everywhere. That's where we positioned it as, Denise Marsa or Denise Marsa Music. And then there's Key Media Group PR for the company. Yeah, and I'm on Spotify, some of my tracks, and I hope to release a new song on a video. I have this really cool video idea. That'll be the first time that I'm actually coming up with an idea for a video and a song to be released exactly the same time. And that'll be in the spring. Cool. And you said you worked on Float. Is that one of the ones that we're going to get? It's a new, I don't think it's going to be done by the time, when you airing this? Monday. 2023. Monday the 17th. Yeah, it won't be ready. I mean, I've got my home demo kind of happening at the moment, but I'm still working on it. So I don't know I'll send you some tracks. We'll figure that out, or you can listen to stuff and decide. But Float, I hope to release spring of this year. I've got this cool idea for an animated video and the song. Yeah, so that'll be my next release as an artist. And then the people can also watch my show, which talks a lot about some of my situations, the past. If you go to my website, you'll see a link for the past, and there's a link where you can rent it. It's like I did a live version of it. Oh, that was a trip because there was no audience. So, and I just started working on the show. I've only performed it 5 times now. And so I premiered it in London, and then I did a show in the Revelation Gallery in New York, and then I did another one in Revelation, which we filmed, and I might actually do a rebroadcast of that in the spring as well. But you can check it out on the website.
Cool. That's
and then
awesome.
I just did a festival, and we won the best concert. Yay!
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't get a chance to work on as much as I'd like to, but I hope to work on it more this year.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you for taking the time to talk to us. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. My pleasure. I loved it, and I really appreciate the support. And I wish you all the best with your ongoing, podcasts and life experiences and art and all your projects.
Yeah,
really appreciate it, Andy.
Thank you.
It's really cool.
And for our listeners, thank you for listening. We'll see you guys again next week.
I can feel the warmth of your breath on the back of my neck as I lay my head on your heart. I don't wanna turn on the lights, wanna stay here all night, wanna stop this solo ride. Won't you let me show you the other side? Won't you let me take you to the other side of the rainbow, Listen to the words of the greatest poets that ever walked this earth. Love has always been the greatest inspiration on this earth. Wanna count the times you laughed in a day. Wanna move the rock when it's in your way. Wanna see the world and how it can be through your eyes as you're watching me. Won't you let me show you the other side? Won't you let me take you to the other side of the rainbow, rainbow? drive to the middle of nowhere, put the top down, look at my options. Oh yes, it feels like I'm born again. No, I didn't see it coming. My friends say I live in a bubble, but the bubble's been busted open. But I'm not crying, 'cause I've got my heart and I've got my soul. I've got the very first dream car I ever bought. I've got my best friend from high school, and she's never leaving. I've got a voice that's got to be heard, and if we have to hurt to save this world, then I guess it's best to say my little pain will fade away. Time to drive. Time to drive to the middle of nowhere, put the top down, look at my options. Oh yes, I know I've been down this road before. And it's not any wonder that this tide's not keeping me under. But I know my greatest hour's the hour when I rise. I've got my heart and I've got my soul. I've got the very first dream car I ever bought. I've got my best friend from high school, and she's never leaving. I've got a voice that's got to be heard, and if we have to hurt to save this world, then I guess it's best to say my little pain will fade away. No, 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 I stood underneath the raindrops. No, 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 and watched the sunrise the next day. No, 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 I jumped off the bridge when I should have crossed it. Oh, how I trusted. Oh, how I trusted. I've got my heart and I've got my soul. I've got the very first dream car I ever bought. I've got my best friend from high school, and she's never leaving. I've got a voice that's got to be heard, and if we have to hurt to save this world, then I guess it's best to say my little pain will fade away. And I drive, and I drive to the middle of nowhere. Time to drive, time to drive. Gotta put the top down, gotta look at my options, get on the road and drive.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.